First of all, devastating. I'm shocked at how competent these hearings are. Flabbergasted. I can't believe they're doing this good a job. This is how we would lay out the case. I don't mean it from a progressive perspective. I mean from a logical perspective. This is the order of things. This is one thing leads to another. Overwhelming evidence, tapes, witnesses, etc. Mainly tapes in just the right order. Thank you. Thank you for your competence. I'm so not used to it. I can't express to you how shocked I am at the good job they're doing in these hearings. They're largely Democrats. This is unprecedented. And it goes to show you how low the bar is. I am so used to Democratic incompetence and Democratic leaders coming out going, and saying things that don't make any sense. When Zoe Lofgren started to make sense, I was like, yes, oh my God, she's a rational person and can put together sentences. I was worried that Liz Cheney was going to be the only one, and she's the Republican there, right? And so fantastic job. The video evidence is pulverizing, devastating. Every Trump lawyer basically saying the guy's nuts. We told him 1,000 times there's no evidence. And every time he's like, but what about the parrot and the truck? If the parrot and the truck were together at the same place, wouldn't you have a mule or 2,000 mules? And they're like, no, you insane person. None of this is true. Those are not liberals. Those are not Democrats. Those are not progressives. Those are Republicans on his team telling him, please, sir, please. Okay, and Barr summarized it well at one point saying, look, after the election, he just became detached from reality. And that's exactly right. And so the Barr testimony was obliterating. Look, I know that Trump voters don't know the context of Washington. They barely know the context of life, right? So the people that are still hanging on, which is a great majority of Republican voters saying, oh, no, Biden didn't win the election. Oh, Trump won the election. So they're like, none of thing is likely to get through to that core base, right? But maybe 25% of Republican voters can look at this and go, as Barr said at one point when he was talking to Trump, quote, this is getting awkward. Okay, are there 25% of Republican voters left in the country who are still sane, who are not detached from reality? Because if they watch any portion of this, they got to be like, oh, it turns out Trump was lying the entire time. His entire team thought he was lying. His son-in-law thought he was lying. His daughter thought he was lying. His attorney general. So that's why I come back to Bill Barr, because if you know the context of Washington, Bill Barr is not a little right-wing. Bill Barr's massively right-wing. And Bill Barr just told you he agreed with everything Trump did before the election. Trump was a monster, an idiot, a right-wing zealot before the election. And Bill Barr was there for it. Bill Barr was the one who engaged in the cover-up of the Mueller report and misrepresented it. Bill Barr covered for everything Donald Trump did. And even he said, well, that was pre-election when we're basically, this obviously he didn't say this part, but I'm telling you this editorially. He's like, basically, we were monsters together. I didn't mind being a monster. I didn't mind being crazy right-wing. But he's like, but after the election, he was gone. He's detached from reality. You just couldn't have a normal conversation with him. So it's not that Barr didn't mind being right-wing. It's not that he didn't mind using every lever of power to maintain that power. It just wasn't true. It wasn't within miles or planets of true. So if Republicans are watching, this is devastating. If independents are watching, it's devastating. Let me give you more, but first let me give you one quick funny comment. The Zoe Lofgren wince is awesome, especially in the early parts. She started getting better towards the end. I wish I could have interrupted to tell you guys this, but I wanted to make sure you didn't miss a minute of it, a word of it. Before the videos ran, she's uncomfortable. She hasn't done the, hey, let's go to the videos before. That's why I said it looks like us. Hey, go to video 15, go to video 8, right? Every time before the videos, she would wince like, is it going to play? Is the right video going to play? So see if she does it again. It's just a fun little part of it. The little mask, the black mask they have on the phone that look like little condoms. I'm keeping it real, hilarious. Okay, I get why they have to do it, but it's just funny. And so somebody one of the Trump team started saying this is like the big fraud, really. And there's a good word for it in my mind. This is not me saying it. I think where they, and this is important, guys. And again, I can't believe they're making rational points that are really logical and devastating, because Democrats normally suck at that. So, anyways, so they said not only did he raise money, not only did he lie about the elections, but he raised money to tell you about how he's going to do the the court cases, right? Then they explained that he lost all the court cases, that every piece of evidence was not real, etc. But on top of that, that he never actually spent the money on the court cases. So that's what I would call the big con. So and he didn't con us. He didn't con independents. He didn't con the media. He conned his own voters. He still has a lot of that money. A lot of that money he spent on himself. Jared's face is hilarious. Every time he looks like, I do declare. I feel like he's going to say that before every time he speaks. But even, I mean, look, Bill Stepien, campaign manager, he's like, basically he was saying they started to sound insane. And whenever they're meeting outside of the Oval Office where Trump's not, Mark Meadows, Jason Miller, even Jason Miller, they're all like, none of this is true. Stepien says right in the beginning, proud of the race we ran. That means that they're about to lose to him. They're about to lose. Can't talk sense to him. And by the way, this is super interesting. He might have lost the election because of his insecurity. He told everybody don't do mail-in votes. Stepien and others explained to him, including Kevin McCarthy, no. If you tell Republicans to not do mail-in votes, we're going to lose a certain percentage of people who would have voted but who can't go in day of. That could cost us the election. Remember, he only lost by 43,000 votes in 3 states. He only lost the Electoral College because of those 3 states and just those 43,000 votes. And he told people not to do the mail-in thing because he was so insecure that he was going to lose. He was setting up an excuse ahead of time. And that insecurity might have cost him the actual victory if he hadn't done that. And if he hadn't talked crap about the mail-in ballots and the Republicans had voted at the normal rate that they do with mail-in ballots, he might have won. But he cost himself because he was so worried about losing, because he's so insecure. He was so worried they were going to call him a loser. And that's why you see all the lies that you see afterwards. He can't admit to himself, let alone anyone else, that he lost, that he's a loser. That's why he became detached from reality. Stepien said about the campaign, it was structurally and financially deficient. He thought the new team, he was on Team Normal. Rudy's team was, quote, not honest or professional. Nuts was used at one time. Even another devastating part, Sidney Powell's own testimony in her defamation case, where she said no reasonable person would think that she was stating facts. Trump thought she was stating facts. At least 3/4 of Republican voters today, that's tens of millions of Americans, thought she was stating facts. She's not stating facts. Even she admits it. And she says, no reasonable person would believe me. And that's true. No reasonable person would, but these folks are not reasonable. Trump is not reasonable. And he has led a giant chunk of this country to also be detached from reality. And then finally, a couple last ones. He said, Barr said basically, and on others, there was this particular quote, never any interest in what the actual facts were. Barr said that. Trump never showed any interest in what the actual facts were. And I'll tell you one more thing. And there was the funny elements where they bring in the suitcase. They're like, he's like, the suitcase in Georgia. It was crazy, right? And one of his top advisors is like, no, there was no suitcase. I love that part because we showed that on the Young Turks and we're like, look, guys, they keep saying there's a suitcase, but here's the video. We've looked at it 100 times. There's no suitcase. And so we didn't take the crazy bill. Even Trump's team looked at it 100 times. They're like, Mr. President, you're detached from reality. There's no suitcase. They're following the exact procedure they follow every time. Bill Barr said, Mr. President, you did better in Detroit this time than you did last time. If there was fraud, why would they have you doing better, not worse, right? But no facts matter at all. And I'm surprised, and I'm being honest about this, I'm surprised at the sanity of his advisors. I thought everybody in Trump's orbit was nuts. But here's a bunch of rational people. Again, all right-wingers, all people I disagree with, all people that I hope are never in power again. But they were not detached from reality. They were like, Mr. President, we looked at the tapes, we looked at the data, we looked at the evidence over and over again. None of it is true, Mr. President. The only person who seems to have believed it was true was Donald Trump. I don't think he's lying. I think he's actually nuts. Like I said, one of them even said it. Nuts. It's totally nuts. And then another hilarious moment was when people had to awkwardly describe that they were trying to keep Rudy Giuliani from the president during election night because Rudy came in sauced. That's why I was going like this in the live stream. By the way, we're going to cover all of it live. Okay, you don't. So if it's on, make sure you're watching with us because we're going to give you instant analysis just like this. And sometimes we have a little fun with it, right? I mean, the witnesses saying Rudy was drunk was hilarious. I'm going like this the whole time. Then Rudy comes on and he's like, no, it's all true. I mean, so it's surprisingly amusing as well. But I'm going to end on this thing I started with. I'm stunned at how effective this is. I can't believe the Democrats have put together a competent hearing. And if anyone's watching it, it's good night, Irene. This is an open and shut case. President's totally a lunatic. None of it was ever true. And Republicans think that. Right-wingers think that. Anyone who's looked at the evidence thinks that. So the only people left detached from reality is the president and a giant chunk of Republican voters. All right, let's bring in David Schuster. David's going to take it from here. David, you were watching. What'd you think?
Cenk, I'll agree with you. I was surprised at how well they did, in part because they were thrown a major curveball when Bill Stepien, because his wife apparently went into labor this morning, said, like, I can't be there to testify. I got to be with my wife. Well, apparently the committee had been told by Stepien in advance this could be a possible conflict, so they were able to respond to the curveball very well in terms of having Stepien's videotaped deposition ready to go, having some of the other clips of Bill Barr and etc. But still, as you pointed out with Zoe Lofgren, they were never quite sure if their sequence was going to work. So kudos to the committee for how smoothly they handled this, despite their star witness today not being available. I will add, Cenk, that the other group that is going to be so intriguing to follow on this, and that one of the witnesses, Chris Stirewalt, was a politics editor at Fox News. He mentioned that Donald Trump was convinced that the election was stolen from, that he was crazy, and that a large chunk of Republican voters did, but that most Republicans, most operatives, most campaign officials did not believe it. They knew it wasn't true. But there were a couple key people at Fox News who kept peddling Donald Trump's lies, ignoring what they were being told by the campaign, and continued to promote those lies anyway. In other words, Fox News was the echo chamber that Donald Trump was seeking. And so I think it'll be fascinating when Chris Stirewalt gets up and if he's asked about internal discussions at Fox News about how they handle the coverage. But again, it's been a fascinating hearing. And again, to your point, a lot of people, I think, just naturally assumed, oh, there's lots of Republicans, the campaign, the RNC, Republicans in Congress who are convinced the election had to have been stolen. And now we're finding out, no, most of them, in fact, knew the election had not been stolen. Most of it knew that this was nonsense. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking, follow your lead, let the committee continue to speak for themselves.
So real quick, guys, we're double streaming. You can also see JR Show watch list at youtube.com/watchlistTYT. Damage Report's going to come after watch list, of course. So watch either stream you like. David's going to take it from here. Benny Thompson's back.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.